and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of April 7th, 2014. Welcome to the site to you new members, and welcome back to the old members. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered in a video just like this one. But I need your question if I'm going to answer it, so please send your questions to webmaster@KennyRoy.com. I go through all the questions. I answer the ones that I think will help the most people. There's no such thing as a stupid question, and it is the best way to get the most out of the site. You can even send me your Maya file. I have gotten a few people who've sent me their Maya file. All you have to do is just remember that I can't show any copyrighted rigs or ones that are not free for commercial use. That includes rigs from other schools. Okay, I don't know why I say other schools. I'm not a school. I'm your animation channel. It says so right up on that banner, sort of that way. If you notice, I'm experimenting. I'm kind of playing around with the lighting. I asked you guys last week in the video mail if you like the new setup. I had the camera backed off a little bit, and I got some good feedback. Some people said no, we don't like it. So any critique is good. So I've changed the lighting around just a little bit. I've put the camera back a little bit closer, but also zoomed out, so it's there's a little bit wider perspective. And I guess this is better because you're actually getting as much of a view of me if I am going to be kind of like acting stuff out. Just because I have hundreds of Ask Video Mail questions piled up, stockpiled as it were, does not mean that you shouldn't turn in Ask Video Mail questions. But if you do, a good way to get to the top of the pile is to send me a Maya file. And it can be anything. You can be just like stuck on the shot and say, Kenny, I need eyes on this. And I'll take a look. And maybe I'll notice something that you can do to speed up your workflow. All right? But it is going to be a workflow. I am going to talk about workflow if I see your Maya file. Okay? Other news, not too much to announce just yet. Obviously, things are always going. Things are always moving forward here at the studio, Arconics, and on KennyRoy.com. I am going to be making some announcements at the end of the month, though. So stay tuned here. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I think I have one of those. I know it's too hard to keep up with all of them. And once you link them all together, there's really no point in having, in updating more than one, right? Because you can like take a photo, share it on Facebook and Twitter, and then or like on Instagram or whatever. Anyway, but if you're following me on one of those, you will not miss any announcements. Okay. And then one last thing I wanted to talk about was how in last month's lecture on story, I kind of announced that sort of like hand in hand with my book, Finish Your Film, coming out, that I'd like KennyRoy.com to be a place where you come and at least maybe plan with each other or maybe even get together and work with each other. But I'd also like to put a lot of stuff up that is supportive of short film. I'm going to be putting some stuff together and sort of beta testing. If you'd like to be a part of that, send me an email and I will talk to you about sort of what I'm thinking about doing, and maybe we can bounce some ideas off each other. I want to get some feedback from the community. It's hard because I think that people think I am sort of like up here on camera and sort of doing my own thing. And I don't want that to be the impression. I kind of want you guys to all feel that I'm not like up here on camera. I'm sort of like down here on camera. And if we were in a room, I would be standing among everybody and all talking. Everyone's giving feedback. Everyone's kind of like communicating and giving information and their opinions and whatever. So want to be on the level. So anyway, think about me that way, will you? Great. Fantastic. And jump into the Anim Gym. If you're not there, you're missing out. You're missing out. Okay, let's check out the question. You're going to like it. Thank you, Nicole. Nicole was our winner for the March Madness. Just if you guys haven't seen that announcement yet, I have to put it in this video mail. She turned in 56 questions in the month of March. One person, yes. That is a heck of a lot of questions. So congratulations one more time to Nicole. And I'm going to have to start answering these, getting them out of the way, if I'm ever going to get through them. So I started with this one because I really like it. It's a workflow question, of course. In the critique, I did say that to not worry about the jar. And the reason I said that is because my workflow is always based on centering everything you can in the hips, centering it in the as deep and as like fundamentally in the center of gravity as you can, so as to always give like 1,000-foot view, a readable movement on your character, no matter what the action is. And it's as simple as standing across, I think I said this in the Anim Gym webcast. It's as simple as standing across a football field and being able to see if two people are talking, if they're fighting or if they're laughing, right? You could be like hundreds of feet away, and you can tell when somebody's laughing or when they're like angrily like speaking at somebody, right? Now, let's just take like laughing, for instance. All right. What is the body action that would go with laughing? Sorry about that loud noise. Ooh, I got to remember to give that back to Time Warner Cable, or they're going to charge me for it. What is the body action? Let's say it's a big kind of like belly laugh, right? Something like this. Okay? Now, you don't even have to see their face. They could be turned away from you. And you could read that whole thing, right? What is it, though? It's the very, very, very subtle details in it that sets it apart from any other action. Is it a person like sort of watching a bird fly over their head? No, because my head moved a little bit faster than my body, so it was obvious, even when I'm turned away, that my eyes are tracking something, because the eyes are going to be able to track it, which is going to lead the head, which is going to lead the body, right? The laughing one is a little bit different. It's different in that my torso is being rotated back. It's starting deep, deep, deep in my root, and the head is sort of kind of like locked to the torso. At the very end, there's a little bit of an extra, it's not overlap, it's like an extra action on top of it, almost like a whip cracking. Now, why am I going into so much detail on like animating a laugh from 1,000 feet away when the question was on holding a prop in a close-up or a medium shot of a character opening that jar, okay? The reason I'm going into it is because you should have the mentality and the workflow that comes from the mentality that your animation needs to work at 1,000 feet. Okay? Now, what does that mean? It means that when you're looking at silhouette, you go from broad and general to specific. Too often, what animators choose as like a strong silhouette is something that just has like a lot of use of like negative space, right? Where there's just like interesting negative space, and you have your silhouette, but you also have like, you know, limbs that are kind of, you know, placed in a way that they kind of come out of the silhouette, and, you know, this feels really strong, this negative space. Right? So like all these kind of like silhouettes where you're playing with that's you being a little bit too close to the camera, or a little bit too close to the work. Okay? If anything, what you should be doing is, like for instance with opening a jar, is starting with how am I going to get across the idea that it's a struggle to open this jar. Well, struggle. What is struggle? Struggle is is like stubbornness. In the body, what would that mean? It would mean like muscle exertion. How would I show exertion? Well, if something is moving and or is trying to move and there's a force opposing it, I'm kind of talking through the vocabulary of deciding on how you're going to finally choose your performance for this. Okay, so it's almost like a word game almost. Start playing like with like synonyms, like get a thesaurus out almost. Actually, that might not be a bad idea, really, because you'd finally arrive at some words that are synonymous with this struggle, and those would be the kind of words that you could put into your work in silhouette and body language, which is like 90% governed by your root, its position, and your gross silhouette, your line of action, and your major forces in the body. And the word that I kept on using in that critique with everybody was tension. Tension. And you would arrive at that word if you were using a thesaurus. This might not be a bad idea. I might start just recommending this outright. When planning your animation, to think of some words that kind of exemplify what you want to go on in the body. Like, what would be the 1,000-foot view of the body language? What would be exemplary? I guess so. Exemplary of that. And maybe go into a thesaurus and find some other words, right? And you would find like struggle, you'd find tension, you'd find conflict, you'd find all these things. Okay. So when you're looking at silhouette, like really if you're the kind of animator, it's fine if you are, but if you're kind of animator that right now is doing stuff like like this and just looking at all the way down to sort of the nitty-gritty, right? Especially if you're animating with tempo, then you're definitely not thinking about this when you're posing. You're definitely not. Okay? This is great, but if you're animating with tempo, you're probably doing a lot more movement before you're getting down to this kind of thing. But if you're the kind of animator that's like coming up with these poses and you're just working like negative space and you just want it to be iconic, you want it to look like a Banksy graffiti art piece, right? That's like so like iconic and symbolic, right? But what you're forgetting is that from 1,000 feet away, this can be read as like 100 different things. Whereas what your goal should be is that first impression is unmistakable of the main story within the body, which would be tension. Okay, so again, why am I talking about this 1,000-foot view when the question was why did I suggest not animating without the prop? Well, here's why. The very, very, very first reason, and this is the simplest, is that anything that is in your scene is going to influence how you're working, no matter what. So having that there, and even spending the 1 second it takes to get the hand to sort of like line up a little bit better with the jar, is a wasted second. And you got to admit, think to yourself right now, and if you don't agree with this, I think you're fooling yourself. But you got to admit that getting the hand to like, taking 3 seconds to just get the hand lining up a little bit better with the jar is like 1,000th of the things that you are doing to that prop that are not contributing at all to that story, that 1,000-foot impression of the main story within the body itself, right? Because you are bending the fingers, you're lining it up. If it gets off just a little bit, you're adjusting kind of frame by frame and whatever. Number 2, normally when we talk about props, we talk about contact anyway. If you know my workflow from the contact lecture, you know that you have to animate on arcs through the contact. The change to the arc will demonstrate the weight and the severity of that impact for your contacts. Okay? So, manipulating a prop is almost like animating a contact, like on every single frame that the object is being held. Sort of. All right? Once that hand gets on that lid of that jar, you're animating constantly that contact. Okay? So if you think about it, it's basically impossible to really successfully and with good workflow have that prop there sort of begging and demanding your attention if you are supposed to be animating good contact, animating on arcs through that point of contact. And so what does that mean? If you go ahead and watch the Incredibles teaser. That the very first one that they released. I loved it because it kind of, for me, I'm not sure if any other movie did this before the Incredibles. I don't think so. But they started, it's probably because it was animation, I would say. Probably because it was animation. It was a scene that could have been from the movie, but it wasn't in the movie. It was like a mini short film about it was like it gave you the perfect setup. So it was like 30 seconds or a minute long of this is what happens when a superhero ages 20 years and gets fat and gets a call that there's, somebody that needs saving, right? And he can't even get his belt on, right? Totally original idea, amazing, right? The film is incredible, but just watch that teaser again because it's so clever that they decided to just do that. The reason I want you to look at it is because there's no way, no possible way that there would have been such amazing struggle in the body when he's trying to get that belt on if the animators were worried about keeping the buckles exactly in the hands and making sure that the straps were touching him and whatever. I promise you that those animators' workflows started way higher level, way more 10,000 foot view, way more extreme concentration and adjustment and perfection in things like the reversals in his spine, where he tries to put it together. I guarantee you that animator worked on that reversal, played with. Remember, the best animators are not people who can take one perfect step in front of another. They experiment and they wiggle into the perfect animation, right? So I know that they experimented, they pushed, they pulled, they watched it 1,000 times over, showed it to their fellow animators, went back and played with just like the silhouette. They played with the timing, little adjustments back and forth, and they found that right performance of just the spine, just having those two sides of the buckle and trying to get it together, right? Just that body and the speed at which it snaps into that tense pose, and just how tense it is, all right, is a perfect example of how the prop itself will take all of the important cues from the rest of the body. Okay? True or false? Watching, if they would render it for us and let us watch it, watching him try to put that belt on, but the camera's behind him instead, right? From 100 feet away, you would feel the exact same tension in the body. Prop is not giving you that tension. the stretching, the pulling, or even if there was like squash and stretch, even if that belt that he's putting on is like getting thinner, like as he pulls it, whatever is happening at all, you can tell me anything and I'll say still, right? Nothing that's happening in that prop is actually giving you the impression that the tension is in his body and that he is struggling to get those two sides together, okay? And even in the arms and wrists and hands, as we start traveling down hierarchies and coming out of the root into the extremities, even the amount that they're wiggling, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all, right? The two sides of the belt, could be showing or they could be not showing, right? And a technical animator, or however, I'm not sure if they rigged the belt or however it worked back then. Cloth was still pretty crappy back in The Incredibles. But whoever came in after and made the belt part work was taking all their cues from the arms, okay? So as much as it is good to have a stand-in and know it's there, okay, that's just for like size, okay? So here's like a jar, right? It's got a little lid on it, right? You can model this and you can place this in the hand and parent it or whatever, but after you do that, forget about it, all right? You can still have it showing, all right? So when I gave that note that I wouldn't even have the jar in there, I know that I just get distracted. And it doesn't matter at all if the hand is like right here, like hovering above the jar. Because once I go into blocking plus and definitely in polish, I'm going to be making the adjustments and getting it right on, right? But if that is in there and I'm doing this, here's the hand, and if I'm doing this, that is way too much of a distraction, and I'm not going to put up with something unimportant screwing up my animation like that, okay? So, this is a workflow question. Deep down, it is actually, to be fair, let me address the very last thing that was said. Wouldn't it be harder to adjust it like after the fact? Is that what it said? Let me just check real quick. Okay, more difficult to add it in later. I'll say this. Yes, you're right, for visual reference, at least just for like sizing, you can have it in there. But unless you've animated like 200 shots in your career so far, just having it around is probably going to make you be making lots of little adjustments. And that's bad workflow. It is. Okay? So have it in there in the beginning, but I would actually hide it. And to sort of answer the second part of the question, wouldn't it be more work to add it in later? Let's be very specific. Yes, it is more work because you technically might have to, like, frame by frame, like adjust the contact or adjust the hand pose or whatever. But that's not actually more work where you need it. Okay? It's actually kind of just like grunt work. So adding for yourself a little bit more grunt work at the end, just so you can have the total freedom of animating pure body language, animating out from the root, and doing it in a way that is extremely readable and strong. That's a trade-off. I will take that deal anytime. Okay? I'll take that deal anytime. So, to put it another way, yes, if you are animating with that prop in there the whole time and you're adjusting the hand and you're keeping the hand like right on it and whatever the whole time, you will have a lot less of that to do at the end of the shot. but you're saving yourself a little bit of grunt work, and you're paying for it by losing the plot in the body mechanics. Do you see how that's a really crappy deal? Okay? All right. I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about workflow. So I hope this was eye-opening. I hope this helped you out. Nicole, thank you for your 56 questions. 55 to go. Everyone else, please send more questions. I can always use more. Webmaster@kennyroy.com is the address you should use. This has been a lot of fun. Stay tuned for a lot more things. Some exciting announcements coming your way. I'm Kenny Roy. Good luck with your animation. And as always, rock on.